Tell us about this kid, because I don't know a lot about him, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I can certainly read from our site, Tavion Gadson, what he is, but at 6'5", 265, is he a edge guy or an interior guy?
Yeah, he's gonna it's probably gonna end up as an interior guy with Odell. He spent the most time with Odell. Very coveted guy from the start. FSU's been on him harder than anybody. Tennessee, you had to out battle Tennessee for that one. So you know how that works with NIL. So they've certainly had some heavy competition. I think the main thing with Davion is just what you watch when you break down his film is just the way he gets off the line, like is really fast. Like he's a very good pass rusher. Certainly gets off, uses his hands well as far as getting off blocks. But he is a tackle for loss machine. He's just always in the backfield. That's the thing I noticed when I studied a lot of his film is like, man, he gets a lot of tackles for loss. He just doesn't. There's not a lot of misses as far as when he gets off that line of scrimmage. Bam, he's there. So there's things technique wise that he's going to have to clean up. Probably why he's a high 3-star and stuff like that. But I think the potential when you see what the skill set is, the way he pass rushes and his athleticism is certainly tremendous. And I think it's a really good ad for FSU.
So, Michael, just some debates on the boards with people about who was actually interested in him. I know that it basically lists that he chose us over Minnesota, but some folks have pointed out that Tennessee liked him, Georgia liked him. If that's accurate, that Georgia liked him and was serious in any way, well, I think obviously a lot of Florida State fans would be very excited to hear that, given what Georgia's been, in particular on defense the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think Georgia was, somewhat involved, and I think mainly it was Tennessee. Tennessee was the team that they were most concerned about.
Okay.
He visited Tennessee twice in the summer, once after each one after FSU. So they obviously covet him. They want him. I've heard they pushed for him as far as trying to get them in his class. So this wasn't a situation where it was just, oh, it's just this kid that is interested in Minnesota or somebody that this wasn't pushing. I mean, they were pushing. There was schools that were very active with him, but he took 2 visits in the summer there. Took 2 visits to FSU, I think an unofficial, and then obviously the official in June. And I think the big thing, I guess, in this recruitment, as it is with a lot of defensive tackles, or guys that are going to end up at defensive tackle, is Odell. Odell does a great job of relationships, but also there's very few that can put the amount of guys in the league or develop the way Odell does from the college ranks. I think this kid's going to be used kind of similar to the way they used Dennis Briggs. If you watch a lot of his development as a player throughout his career at FSU, I think there's sometimes Dennis has been strong side defensive end.
Yep.
There's sometimes he's moved inside. I
Sure.
think this is the type of kid that will do that. Probably grow into around 280, something like that by the time he graduates, and then like Dennis, he'll add weight. But both are really explosive off the line. That I think they're similar to just the way they pass rush and stuff like that. I'm not comparing them to them, just showing people similarities between Tavion and also Dennis Briggs. But that's kind of how I view him being used in this defense.
Love Dennis Briggs. So if anything comes close to that, that's a good thing. Now I'm going to ask you something really quick, Michael, because we're not just about the fluff here on the Jeff Cameron Show. I want to ask you something, and I want you to react to it. I'm going to read you something, and I want you to react to it. All right. Now, so I'm always trying to do my research. First of all, I read all your stuff, Michael, or I just ask you about a kid if I can, because we work together. But I don't spend a lot of my time studying national recruiting. That's not my thing. That's what you do, and you're an expert at it. So I read things both on our website and across sites across the country. And there was an article, I think it came out last week, and it was an article about which universities should be thinking about panicking right about now when it comes to recruiting. And there was, UCLA and Ole Miss was on that list. Michigan, to an extent, was on that list. I remember Missouri was on that list. But Florida State was on that list. And the person wrote about Florida State's class. Author of the article said there are 81 blue chip prospects in the state of Florida in the 2023 recruiting cycle. Florida State has commitments from just 3. Florida has 12. Miami has commitments from 4 players ranked in the state's top 20 alone. This person was pointing out that's not a recipe for success for Mike Norvell. What do you make of that, and were there any inaccuracies there?
I don't think there's inaccuracies of, hey, they need to recruit the state of Florida better, but you have to. I mean, as far as the class and panicking, yeah, I don't agree with that. I mean, I think they're doing really well. I think they're likely going to get a 4-star Blake Nicholson. He's out from California,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at the class overall. The offensive line's good. They have a 4-star defensive tackle in Keith Sampson. They just added Tavion Gadson. They're a major factor for a guy like Jordan Hall that's in state. But I think a lot of these kids in state, they want to see what the damn product is.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's because they know about FSU. So that's the way I would respond to that article is they need to see the product, as far as on the field. Even Miami to an extent in Florida, certainly I think those are more comfortable situations as far as your product or what your product is, even though Miami's kind of average at best, when they as far as what they do during the season, but they're in a more comfortable situation than FSU. But I think a lot of these recruits kind of want to see what FSU is before they jump on. I don't think it's not, oh, FSU's ignoring the state of Florida kids. I think they're on them. I think they're on a lot of state of Florida kids. I think it's just a lot of these kids want to wait and see what the product is. Show me that your product's different. Show me that your passing game's different. Show me that your defense is more consistent in getting stops. I mean, I think that's the stuff that a lot of recruits want to see before they just go all in on FSU. They're in state.
yeah. Translation: win some damn games.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. Michael, always appreciate it, brother. Be good, man. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it, bud. Take care.
Take care. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but you read that, Tom, and you think, well, okay, that's another view of where Florida State's at in recruiting right now. Again, when you read that, 81 blue chip prospects in the state of Florida for the 2023 cycle. Florida State has commitments from 3. Florida has 12. Troubling.
Right. Well, if you do what you're supposed to do and win football games, and Florida stumbles, and how many of them jump ship from Gainesville? We've seen that in Miami a lot of years with a lot of different coaches, and you want to finish strong. You want to close strong here. Michael's answers, I mean, it's logical.
Well, both Florida because and Miami currently have the new car smell because they have a brand new.
They do, and also they have more recent success.
Yes, by far. Yes.
They have more highlights in the last 3-4 years when these kids actually started high school, not when they were 7 or 8.
Yeah.
We don't have any. That's the problem.
I was trying to thank you. Yeah, I was illustrating the point that every time we talk about recruiting, you're only going to be able to get to a certain level of excitement, and you're only going to be able to reach a certain level of recruit. There are outliers in any recruiting class, but the point would be you're only going to get attention from kids that can, let's say the 4 and 5-star guys that we really clamor for. The elite 5-star kid in our own backyard, let's say a 5-star kid in the state of Florida who you would like to think you have a relationship with and maybe can win over, right? Now he's being recruited not just by Florida and Miami and Florida State. If he's a 5-star kid out of the state of Florida, he's being recruited by Georgia, being recruited by Alabama, he's being recruited by Clemson in the South alone. Then you throw in an Ohio State and now these days Southern Cal and obviously Oklahoma and Texas about to join the SEC. They're going to be recruiting the state heavily. All of the programs I just named, save for Southern Cal, and their reason is about the money that they're pouring into it now, but have had a ton of success recently. Well, Texas hasn't, but you get my point. But Oklahoma, obviously Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, and then even within the state, as you're pointing out, Florida and Miami have. Until you win games, until you roll out there and have a winning record, it's not going to be reasonable to recruit a top 10 player, a top 50 player, a top 25 player. He's not coming.
Well, yeah, you can recruit them, but close them.
You're not going to close them. And if you recruit them, you're wasting your time and resources where they could be better spent with somebody else that you could get a yes from.
Right. Yeah. The short and sweet way of putting it is I'm glad that these guys are good at evaluation, But I really,
it would be nice to not have to always be so good at evaluation. It'd
Yeah.
be nice to just have these kids knocking on your door because you're that good.
right. Let's evaluate between the 4 and 5 stars that we like and say this kid's going to be a bust.
Right.
You know, this kid's going to be awesome, even though he's a low 4-star. Watch him, perform like a 5-star. Let's turn those talents of evaluation towards better quality of players.
Yeah.
Right now, we're getting by. We're doing good with
Yeah.
the transfer portal
We
and
are
the
doing well.
classes.
Yeah.
You're doing fine. But yes, if you win, let's say you split your in-state rivalry games this year on the way to 8 wins. Okay, let's see how many blue chippers in the state of Florida make their way to Tallahassee at that point. 8 wins, and you beat either Miami or Florida, which means your final impression, that's both in November, is good before December, that we're a player in the state. The number's not going to be 2 or 3.